Are you ready to get your life back? Then get ready for Burn Bright Today with Jennifer Marcinelli on Transformation Talk Radio now. Follow along the show as Jennifer explores a variety of topics and issues, including the energetic causes of burnout, all with the mission of empowering listeners to be true to themselves. As an energy medicine practitioner, speaker, author, and board-certified holistic nurse, Jennifer has discovered new and exciting healing tools and resources and can't wait to share them. Learn to move from the darkness of burning out to the light of burning bright. Get ready for your monthly dose of inspiration and illumination on Burn Bright Today with Jennifer Marcinelli now.
Hey, Burn Brighters. So glad everyone's here today. I have Dr. Pat riding shotgun with me. This is Burn Bright Today with Jennifer J, and we've got a pretty powerful show for you. We are talking about eradicating exhaustion in the workplace, and specifically related to complex PTSD in the workplace and how things are playing out. So big show, lots to talk about. But you know, Dr. Pat, I would kind of like to, I think we should actually talk a little bit about what's going on in the Olympics and our awesome, most world's greatest Simone Biles, a Texan.
Yeah, let's talk about it because she's talking about it. And I think it's good for us to really look at. Now, a lot of times we do a show like this and people say to us, well, you need to be talking positively. You need to be talking. But here's the thing, yesterday it was very clear that there was a rough day for Team USA.
Mm-hmm.
And, Simone Biles said, this is getting to me.
Mm-hmm.
And the team overall posted lower than expected scores during the qualifiers on Sunday. And they're talking about the fact that it wasn't an easy day, or my best, but she says, I got through it. She got through it. And she talks about the weight of the world is on her shoulders, and it is. And so let's talk about that, because I think every one of us right now is going through that. You're going back to work in a job where you've been working remotely. You're expected to perform. The weight of, maybe not the weight of the world from a Simone Biles perspective, but certainly you're carrying your fair share.
Oh, absolutely. And confessions of a holistic nurse here. Okay. I am no Simone Biles, right? I'm no greatest of all time professional athlete. So I don't know what it's like about that type of performance, but what I do know what it's like is to be a top performer in a sales organization. And 2 decades of really trying to manage through, first of all, unrealistic expectations and trying to, it's well documented. You can visit my LinkedIn profile or any of my sales history. It's well documented that as a top sales rep, it was me and one other sales rep that tied for the highest quota in the entire company nationwide, like year upon year upon year. So you're on a team of sales reps, sales executives, and you're carrying the highest quota. And what is it like when, sales, I've been a sales manager, pots and kettles here. Sometimes there's a habit of riding your fastest horse the hardest. And I know this is a part of what led to my burnout back when I was 44. So I've had my own experience with this and what it's like when the weight of the world is on your shoulders, whether you're a professional athlete or whether you are in a sales organization or running your own company like I am now, right? So, and I know you too, you're running an entire franchise.
Yeah. And, I'm really struck by a couple of things. I mean, we're talking about Simone Biles, but I think we need to take a minute to talk about Katie Ledecky for a minute. Yes. I think we need to really talk about this idea, this American swimmer who was so positioned, to really look and be that person, and to watch the race of her life against the Australians and come in second. And, what you're thinking about when you're talking about things like swimming, you're talking about not even a whole second. You know what I'm saying? You're
Right.
just talking about this nanosecond. And when you're looking at it, you know, you're thinking, okay, she's got to do the 200-meter freestyle today. So she finishes number one in that, you know, preliminary heat. Or you're taking a look at something else. The pressure of Olympic athletes has now worked its way down to the average everyday person. And
Yes.
that's really the key. We're
Yes.
talking about these athletes, and we're talking about the pressure, and we're talking about, you know, what they do. But there is something that separates people that have that pressure and come up and move on, and have that pressure and are not able to. And here's the thing we should say to everybody. If you're experiencing exhaustion, you have a reason to do that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's a reason that exhaustion is the new burnout.
Yes.
And that's why you, Jennifer, your new platform is to eradicate exhaustion, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And I'm so glad we're talking about this today, because interestingly enough, as you know, I have local, national, international, and corporate clientele that I serve. And largely the largest part of my practice is like mid 30s to mid 50s-ish. But I will share with you that I also have now this growing demographic in my practice of high schoolers, like seniors in high school and early college. So this is not even across the same demographic as it has been for the last 3.5 years in my practice, or a little bit longer. And this is really key that we're talking about, because you're exactly right. It has now gone down even to the high school level, and probably even below that, with the learning curve of now learning online education, and anything. And we have now millennials stepping into leadership roles that they may not have been fully trained or prepared for. And they're actually still chronologically young. We're young in this incarnation. And, you know, sometimes you just need time in the saddle to learn the ropes so that you can even handle leadership and management, much less run your own company. But let's say you're in an organization as a manager. And I think a part of what I believe we're going to be seeing is that the EAP programs, the employee assistance programs, and management training in companies needs to go through like an overhaul, or an up level, if you will, to really have what I call in Texas HNL, a whole nother level of leadership sensitivity training, empathy training, and energy, managing their own energy, especially with a direct report, especially.
Yeah. That's why I love changing the acronym. Look, you and I have been working on the new website, and, you know, we're really at the final stages to launch it now. We're just finishing some, you know, nuances, but the language is changing. You know, so it was interesting as I was going through this over the weekend, and I was making comparisons, because you always have to compare to make sure that when you're launching something new, did you leave anything out? And the language is changing. And so let's talk about the language of EAP. It has been known to be employee assistant program, but now it's like energy assistant program. Now it's like exhaustion existent. You know, so what I'm saying is the E in front of EAP now has to take on more meaning. Because the minute you say employee assistance, people don't sign up for it. It's the reason why our vets that come back after fighting don't sign up and say, I need mental health, I need psychological assistance. They don't do it because everything's recorded. So if we don't change the landscape of EAP to get the stigma out of it, people are not going to come, right? So we have to do something a little bit more, how should I say, innovative.
Well, absolutely. And that's one of the things I'm so glad that the timing is actually exquisite. And you'll hear me say this a lot, that divine right timing is exquisite, because one of the beautiful things about energy medicine is it works across time and space, which means that, you know, 95% of my entire practice is remote, meaning that it's by telehealth or by video. 95% online. Only about 5% of my clients do I actually see in person right now in the last couple of years. And this is one of the things now, this is one of the gifts of COVID, and one of the gifts of telehealth being made now the norm, is that now people are now open to that distance healing can be provided online by video across time and distance, and receive some of the energetic support that people are just craving, and this is like non-negotiable now.
Yeah.
You've got to have energy healing, right?
Well, and I think we all need it. I mean, I love that we're talking about Simone Biles. I love that she came up and, what she said to us is, I'm feeling it. And, her words exactly was, I know I brush it off and make it seem like pressure doesn't affect me, but damn, sometimes it's hard. Ha ha ha. The Olympics is no joke, she added. And, she's saying it, the everything is on her shoulders. And yet, here's what I want to say. If you watched her or watched what was playing yesterday, let me just talk about yesterday. And you watched her in this performance. You watched them all. Just outstanding. Even the alternates that performed, I was looking and saying, OMG.
Yeah.
And you watched them and you saw a performance that was almost flawless. And there was one move she did where she stepped out, uncharacteristic of her. But even with that, you're talking about a woman that has an actual move named after her.
Like 5, I think.
Right.
4 or 5. Yeah.
And performing something nobody in the world can do but her.
Right.
And then she takes on the pressure to say, I've got to do better. When we come back, let's talk about what it means for us to ramp up to bigger and better, because we don't have to live in the state of exhaustion.
Absolutely.
I mean, you've got clients.
Yes.
Let's talk about what the trend is, what we're seeing, and why what you're doing now is not just burnout. It's helping people with burnout, but helping people understand you're actually in the middle of it.
Right.
I mean, we don't
the
even
muddy
know.
middle. You're in the muddy middle of it, right?
We're in the muddy middle. Let's take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about you, because we get it. We know.
Yeah.
All of us have gone through it. And what are some of the things we're doing to try to get relief? Now, if you're Simone Biles, you're not going to sit down and decide I'm going to have a half a cake to comfort myself. But that doesn't mean the rest of the world isn't.
That's right.
Let's take a short break. When we came back, can you have your cake and not eat it too? Take a short break.
Hey there, it's Burn Bright Today with Jennifer J. and awesome co-host Dr. Pat.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
And I'm joyfully inviting everyone who's interested to visit my new platform, burnbrighttoday.com. So if you're interested in reviewing past shows or learning a little bit more about what the whole Burn Bright Today and Burn Bright Way package is, and what the Pro-Exec package does to help people eradicate exhaustion in the workplace, come on over to burnbrighttoday.com and check it out, and leave me a comment. Let me know what you think of the new website, Dr. Pat's genius.
So let's talk about this absolute result. And what I mean by result, I mean, let's talk about how we look at this idea of moving from burnout to exhaustion. But remember, before the break, we were talking about the fact that we don't know sometimes, Jennifer, what burnout looks like. And I think we should talk a moment about it, just to have a sense of, you may not know you're in the middle of it. And it's almost like there are stages that we go through. Burnout, part of it has these symptoms. And then there's a point at which you go to where you're moving to a place of complete immobilization.
Yes.
You move to the place of exhaustion. Talk about what some of those symptoms are, if you could, and what you're seeing in your clients.
Yeah, so first of all, I just want to remind everybody that everyone's burnout is unique and it's different. So, and also, I'm not a fan of comparative suffering. So try not to ever compare yourself to someone else, or a friend, a colleague, a manager, a loved one, senior leadership, your children, try not to compare them to anyone else, what they're going through. Okay, we're going to a whole nother level of learning about empathy and a whole nother level of maturity in our relationships with other people. Now, having said that, some of the signs and symptoms, and if you go to the website, burnbrighttoday.com, we talk about this, okay? But let's just, a few today. Number one, it's a continuum, all right? So these may be mild to moderate to severe, or they may be moderate and then suddenly severe, and you finally walk in and say, I'm done, I quit or resign. Or worse yet, you've got the employee that quits but doesn't leave. So there's a continuum, right? So signs to watch out for yourself, okay? Running thoughts that you can't naturally interrupt by normal practices, meditation, prayer, a walk out in nature, something like that. Exhaustion that is not relieved by normal rest. And some of the new symptoms, I don't want to say new symptoms, but what I'm seeing, symptoms that I'm seeing with the clients that I'm actively working with like right now is really having difficulty following through on action items. These are educated, polished professionals, some of them running their own companies, who for the life of them just can't seem to go from one Zoom meeting to the next and actually execute the action items between each meeting to move the, let's say, project forward. So that is a clear sign where you've hit a brick wall, you're out of creative abilities, whatever you're doing is not working, and you're just out of any creative ideas of what to do next. That's like an end stage sign to really look out for. But there are also milder ones as well. Emotional outbursts or emotional triggers that where you would have cried much more easily than you ever would have, especially in public, or lose your temper. This really happens also with men, because our society has also taught our men that to not express a wide range of emotions, which every human needs to do. We've talked about this on other shows.
Yeah.
But sometimes what happens is that they couldn't get the attention by being nice, so they go up in degrees to anger to get somebody's attention, or senior leadership, or let's say the board of directors or the stockholders have yelled at them and really put their unwanted energy onto someone in senior leadership, and they blow up. And the only way sometimes it can come out is a flash of anger, which can be really dangerous. Anger can be very good. We've talked about that in other shows, but release of unbridled anger on yourself or anybody around you, direct reports, children, colleagues, not a good thing. But it's also a sign of end stage burnout, folks. So this is something that can be worked on in session. There's hope if you feel like you can't get above the anger band.
Yeah. And I think that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a new way. And we're talking about a way to make sure that, here we are today and we're in the middle of something. We know that we're not completely on track with who we want to become. And so the next stage is, what do you do about it? And, whether you're an employee or just can't be yourself, that's what we're talking about. But now let's jump to the place where you go to the workplace. We talked about Simone Biles. She's in the middle of her workplace.
Yes, she is.
Right now. But there are other athletes, right? That we want to talk about and, talk about what they've done. And part of this is we're seeing more and more athletes say to themselves, wait a minute, I just can't do it. I need to pull out. And, the public is not so, how should I say, forgiving.
Right.
They're just not. They look at us and they look at these folks and they start to think, well, wait a minute, why aren't you here? Why aren't you competing? Why did you pull out of something like Wimbledon? And when you think about it, you have to be thinking about Naomi Osaka. For example, you have to be thinking about the fact that this is somebody that is revered in the sport, and she is also quite controversial.
Right.
And what makes her controversial is that here she is, she is Naomi Osaka, plays for Japan. She's rolling right along in the Olympics, but she took a lot of grief for just saying, I can't play. I can't be in Wimbledon. I'm not able to do it, and has talked openly about what she is experiencing. I want to ask you this.
Mhm.
We know, now we know that this is tough times, but the
Yes.
stigma around talking about it, I mean, the stigma of Biles, admitting that the Olympics are getting to her, the stigma that Osaka felt, for bailing out this is the language that people used, people talked about, oh, are you kidding me? Right? She bailed out of Wimbledon. She just couldn't do it. And so how do we get rid of the stigma? Because this is really the key if we're going to get ahead in this arena. If
Yes.
we don't handle this, Jennifer,
Yes.
this is going to be a global issue of mental and physical health.
Well, you're absolutely right. And truthfully, it probably already is. And we're just now seeing it in a way that we can understand it and receive it. And we're seeing it at such a level that now society is going to have to pay attention to it. I'll just go back a little bit to the corporate world and the corporate days. We've seen corporate burnout even at the CEO level. These people are in their workplaces. How many stories have you heard of CEOs who are leading these really successful companies are going through a difficult time? I mean, you name the black swan event, okay? Whether it was the short-term lending crisis in what was that, 07, 08, you name it, we've all been through it, where these folks just one day, a CEO may come in and say, look, I'm out. I can't go another day. And that's where I was when I was 44. So I've been there, the end stages of burnout. And I think what we're really talking about a phenomenon that we're really seeing, and now we're seeing it in many different ways. I think a part of the foundation of what we're seeing is that people are also empowering themselves to stand up for themselves and for what is truly good for them and what is truly not. Because where else have we seen this? We also saw this with Harry and Meghan and the royal family. They're like, I'm out, man. There's no amount of money that is worth this. Fame is not worth it. Money's not worth it. I'm out of it. And we're going to go do our own thing on our own timeline. So it's almost like across our culture right now, not just professional athletes or senior leadership or business and women, but also in families of all types.
Yeah. I mean, the thing, let's just jump to something that we don't talk about a lot, and that is depression. Mm-hmm. We're starting to hear about it more and more from athletes. We're starting to hear about it from people. We're just seeing it across the board, having those moments where you look at your life and you really can't see yourself in your future is extremely difficult. And it is a sign. It is a sign. And, sometimes people will reach out and get help. Sometimes they don't. But the other part of it is we've got to do some energy looking. We've got to take a look at the energy, and you call it a blueprint. It's that blueprint that you help people create. Can you talk a bit about the blueprint and how important that body of work is that you do to really pinpoint where to even begin the process? And the reason I'm bringing it up, Jennifer, is, and maybe let's talk about it when we come back from break. The reason I'm bringing it up, because sometimes people think, oh, it's like all in my head, but maybe it's not.
Right.
Right. And I would love for you to talk about that when we come back, because we're talking about major shifts in things that could happen for people.
Yes.
And people that think, oh, I've gone here, but rarely have we addressed the energy exhaustion.
Right.
Energy exhaustion. You just don't have any fuel in the tank, right?
Absolutely. And when we come back, I'm so glad you brought this up, because we'll talk about the blueprint and we'll talk about the energetic anatomy, my personal favorite topic of all time, energetic anatomy. So, we'll talk about this, and some other, a part of my role is to raise awareness and teach energetic anatomy in the subtle bodies, because yes, we have a mental body. Yes, there is mental exhaustion. Yes, psychiatry, psychotherapy, all of this is really important, but we really have to learn and discover and also take the responsibility for repairing and maintaining our energetic anatomy. So yeah, we'll talk about that in detail when we come back.
I love it. Let's take a short break, everybody.
All right.
We'll be right back with Burn Bright today.
All right. Welcome back. It's Burn Bright Today with Jennifer J. and Dr. Pat, and we're here from the Burn Bright Today show and burnbrighttoday.com. So I love this topic. I'm so glad that we're talking about the blueprint and energetic anatomy and how important it really is now more than ever to really take a much higher look, as you hear me say all the time, HNL, whole nother level, take a whole nother level look at what our energy is, how to master it, and what's required. Because I think you'd agree with me, Dr. Pat, that now more than ever, this is non-negotiable at this point. We must learn to manage our energy if we're going to even get through this and move forward, and then move on to wealth and abundance and happiness, peace, and calm. It just literally is no longer optional. We must learn about our energetic fields. We must learn about our energetic anatomy, and we must learn to master our energy for ourselves and our interactions with others.
You know, part of this is really fascinating because let's talk about this for a minute. It's the signs that we get when we just want to throw in the towel, right? Where we just don't know. We're frustrated earlier than we normally would be. Now, you know, look, is Simone Biles going to pull herself together? I bet she is. And every one of us has the opportunity to do that. I don't know what kind of support system she has, but the average person does not have the support system.
Right.
And I want to talk about that from your perspective and what you're seeing. So how we can help people. The reason I'm bringing this up, Jennifer, I was going through the site and I was looking at some of the new platform things. And let me just give you an example so you can talk to it. So I was looking at the new services, right? And, you know, this whole site is different. And if you can't see her new site right now, it's probably because we're doing in the middle of a maintenance. But when you go there, what you'll see is a new way to look at the Burn Bright Way. When you click on the Burn Bright Way button, what you're going to see is right out of the gate, are you suffering from anxiety and burnout? And talking about the Burn Bright Way and what it does and how to recover and what you can do. When you go to look, you'll see something called the Pro Exec platform. And what you'll see about the Pro Exec platform is you'll see that right here in this platform, you'll be able to see, well, wait a minute, that's me. She's talking about me. How do I get help? You know, what do I do to be able to help myself? But what I was really struck by are the personal services. And I looked at the way you split them up. So let's talk about this for a minute. And then I want to ask you the key. There's the wellness journey, and then there's the well-being and wealth journey. And people always put them together. When they see wellness, they think they're going to get part of well-being. Well-being has to do with the state of mind you're in. It has to do with how you're thinking. It has to do with how you're manifesting, up-leveling your life. When we're looking at Burn Bright today and the personal wellness journey, it's up-leveling your wellness blueprint. And that is really bringing these together, wellness and well-being. That is the new way to address the completeness of exhaustion, isn't it?
No, you're absolutely right. And what we just now are going to announce, we haven't told anybody yet, is that a major component of the well-being, the critical piece is advanced psychology, because we cannot do energy medicine this has to be a holistic approach. We have to have Western medicine, Eastern medicine. We have to have crystal healing, gemstone therapy, diamond therapy. We have to have the diamond blueprint of a client's energy field to be repaired and replaced so that they can be on their own journey. But what we also need is now doctoral level psychological support. And that is why I've chosen to embark and work and complete my doctorate, my PhD in psychology. So that is all coming to this site too. So what you see today, and with the new maintenance upgrade, you'll be seeing the up leveling of this. And this is a part of why I'm really expanding my practice to include more organizational work, because with the advanced psychology integrated into the energetic components, with this will come advanced organizational intelligence, advanced empathy training for leaders and managers. Because I can tell you this, when I went through graduate school and when I went to the University of Chicago Booth School of Business for senior leadership training, and when I went to the Center for Creative Leadership training years ago, empathy and energetics and managing your energy were not part of the curriculum. So now it's really important now to not only teach this and raise awareness, but to your point, also provide the online downloadable service of energy healing so that anyone who's ready for this, whether they can come in as a personal private client or whether they need to just download a module and then receive that on demand, this is like the new way of healing. It's the new way of supporting any client who this resonates with, to provide physical, mental, emotional, intuitive, spiritual care, as well as psychological care that gives us wellness, well-being. And when those pieces are in alignment with who you are and what you're here to do, wealth comes in. And that is the new way of manifesting abundance. And by wealth, we're not talking just about financial flow. That's a part of it. But this is why now the 3 prongs of the diamond blueprint also include wellness, well-being, and wealth. So we're up leveling everything.
Yeah. And, for me, one of the things that I'm talking with you about today is we're really discovering something super important. And what that's part of, right, is looking at the world and saying, look, we're not going to go back to the old. And we have to prepare ourselves for where we are.
It's gone. It doesn't exist energetically, and it's not supposed to.
So when we talk about this, how do we accept ourselves in the process? I mean, how do we come to the place where we look straight ahead and accept that this is where I am in the journey?
Right. Well, I think that is exactly, and to go back to the hero's journey, that's exactly where it all starts. There's some type of a precipitating event that sends you off on your own personal adventure. Mine, everybody knows, was my near-death experience back when I was 44. And I survived by having a remarkable spiritual experience where I was taken out of the body and I was shown the energetic damage that had been caused in the workplace from me and myself towards me, towards other people, and other people towards me as well. And I was shown that the energetic damage was incompatible with life. And that's why I was suicidal. And that's why I was having a neurological event that could very well have had a very, very poor outcome, including, translation or passing away. And you're exactly right. Everyone's going through this on their own journey at their own time, because everybody's had their own interaction, their own experience with this gift of COVID. Okay. That sets us on this journey. And it's really up to us to get ourselves on our journey and then receive and ask for the assistance of any helpers and support staff that life brings, and the universe and God brings into our life to help us get through this great adventure that we're on, okay, through the abyss of the dark night of soul and through atonement, if you will, and then through and over transformation and transfiguration till you end up with the whole new life. And I'm very fortunate because that's where I am now. I've done it, my clients have done it, and everyone can do it. And actually, we all have to do it at some point in time, because if we choose not to take steps forward on this new journey, it's like a vortex that we just get stuck in until things get so exaggerated that we're forced to go on our journey. And I think, to your point, that's the continuum. And I think there's a lot of folks out there that still haven't made that choice to heal and move forward and start coming into their own unique and authentic self.
Yeah. And, one of the things too that I think we should talk about is the fact that we can eradicate exhaustion.
We can.
And there's a way. And, when Dr. Oz came to the forefront and basically said to the world, okay, world, here we are, we can look for the future of energy medicine.
Mhm.
He should have said there are people
Yes,
that have been doing it for decades,
for decades.
And, you know, everything is energy. And
Yes.
what Einstein really talks about when he talks about the fact that he talks about knowledge, right? He talks about, but the thing I love about him is he talks about and addresses the problem. And he says, you know, look, we created this problem at this level. It can't be solved at this level. And so we're in a stuckness where we're trying to solve the problem at the level it was created. And we
Yeah.
now know that Einstein and Jung and a lot of other people, they really emphasize the spiritual connection. Can you talk to that for a moment?
Oh, I tell you what, and I dedicated an entire chapter to it in my first book. I talk a lot about the importance of having a deep connection with the divine and having a one-on-one connection with your spiritual team. Because every soul, when we incarnate and have our human experience with the fleshy body that we're wearing, whether we're female or male, each soul is, we've been assigned to a team. So we have a team of our own spiritual guides, if you will, that are here to support us. And how important it is now more than ever. That's a part of this great spiritual awakening and ascension that's going on that we're all now very, very well aware of. Especially if you're an active light worker here to really work directly with the light and sound, such as you and I are. So we'll take a break here for a moment. And I think we should come back into this and talk a little bit more about why, you know, Einstein, Tesla, Pythagoras, many, many, many leaders really understood and talked about the importance of having spiritual support, spiritual care. And this is why I chose to become board certified as a holistic nurse, because I'm actually, as everybody knows, I am bound to provide spiritual care for any client who wants to have it. And yeah. Look at any of the recovery programs, AA or any of those, they all have that spiritual component.
Absolutely. It's not just have it, it's the cornerstone.
It is the cornerstone.
It's like a bedrock.
Hippocrates, the same thing. You know, there's a reason that RX on the prescriptions pad stands for Radix. That means that the prescribing physician reviewed the client's natal astrology chart. This has been around for eons, folks. And now it's cool and it's mainstream and it's safe to go for energy healing. So the time is now. We'll cover a little more when we come back. But
yeah, let's take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk specifically about energy. And what I mean by that is we're going to talk about energy every day that we feel. We have it in what we do. Every day it is there. And what do we want to know about it? What can we do to power up every day? What can we do to boost ourselves, our energetic B12 shot? Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
All right, so we're here talking about how to eradicate exhaustion. And I just got to say, Dr. Pat, the number one thing I think we should cover in this last segment is the importance of aligning yourself with the natural flows of the universe. Because I've got to tell you, in my experience, personal, professional, and across my practice, the fastest way to deplete your energy and burn yourself up and out to a crisp is to continually push against the natural forces that the universe, you know, Mother Earth and the universe is, and the divine, okay, is providing for us. So I know you have a few thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, I want to really get to the thing where we recognize in every moment of every day, everything is energy.
Yes.
And, you know, I mean, part of this is how we respond and react to something.
Yes.
You know, I came in today on Monday and just love, you know, what we're developing. But you come in and if you're somebody like me, you have over 400 emails. If you decided not to look at your emails this weekend, which I probably will never do again. that just is a stupid thing right there. You know, what is more as stupid is as stupid does. That's like,
I apologize.
that's like
100 of them were probably from me. So.
No, that
Actually, I took the weekend off, so I'm
but exactly.
fast on this one.
Exactly. And yet though, at the same time, it's interesting, how do you go through and be you and not offend, not offend other people? And here's the thing that we struggle with. We struggle by taking on how other people feel.
Yes.
And I think that's part of exhaustion. When we take on what other people feel or think, I am hearing it in Simone Biles.
Yes.
I'm just hearing it. I'm hearing the pressure, not about herself, but how other people are thinking. And, you can do something so simple in the workplace. I went through this morning is I looked at the new workstation and I looked at it and I said, okay, this is set up exactly the way it was before, but the way it was set up before, you guys were having problems. So why didn't you change it? And what I didn't realize is that the team really didn't set it up. Jessica did. And she didn't have any input from the team that they wanted to set it up differently. And so you have to be looking at and saying to yourself, okay, yeah, my opinion about that, how it was set up, didn't have enough information. So,
Yes.
we put input into the world and then we don't think about the connecting dots of what other people have felt and gone through. And, part of this is stepping back and knowing when to hit the pause button.
Yes.
And if we don't hit the pause button, the robot's going to get taken out of its place and thrown across the street. It's my fourth robot. I got 3 robots.
We're talking about Pat's ping pong experience over the weekend, by the way.
But I have 3 robots in boxes that need to go back. I mean, these are $2,000 units. So I got 3 of them sitting in my garage because they didn't work, ready to go back. And you could either ruin your day or you can decide to be grateful. You can ruin your day, or you could decide to be grateful, or you could step back and decide, wait a minute, I can handle this and I can't handle that. And I've got to get some help. How do we do that?
Oh, well, I tell you, one of the first things, what's coming through for me to share with you is one of the things I see almost every single client. We have to do lots and lots of chakra repair. And self-leadership really begins in the stomach or solar plexus chakra. So if we have an energetic injury or damage, and let me tell you, I did mine from all those years of knocking my head up against a wall and being pushed back on leadership from people who didn't want to, overly harsh criticism from people that actually didn't truly want me to succeed. It damaged my sacral, my solar plexus stomach chakra to the point where it was completely flat. And when that happens, self-leadership goes out the window. It is really hard to move forward in life if any of your chakras are damaged, but especially in a leadership position, self-leadership or leadership of others, if you've got stomach chakra issues. And it can be almost actually insurmountable. And the mind can't get past this. You can try to push and push and push and use the mind and use the will, but energetically, you could really struggle with moving forward if you've got solar plexus, stomach chakra issues. I'll just share that with you straight up. It's kind of not a fun place to be. And it can be absolutely exhausting.
Yeah. And we're not just talking about having a moment of exhaustion where you need to take a breath. We're talking about having a moment of exhaustion where you can't even take a breath.
You're right. And you're right. And it also comes, and I'll just share some of my personal experiences. Back in those 2 decades in corporate America in sales, before I went to work for myself in Burn Right Today, I was a leader and rapidly promoted and driving new things forward. So it's always the person who goes through the wall first that gets the bloodiest. And it's always the tip of the spear, the tip of the arrow that feels the heat, right? It's a great place to be if you could survive it. But the exhaustion that can come along from hyper criticism from people who truly don't want you to succeed, or are just, they don't have the training and understanding of how to approach something with empathy or timing. Is this the right time for me to mention this? Is this the right method to mention this? And or maybe they don't have the training and organizational intelligence. Okay, if I blast this person, if I send out an email to my team Sunday at midnight, what impact is that going to have on my staff? Even if they wake up Monday morning and they have it, but energetically they're getting, the minute you hit send on that, that harsh criticism, that harsh email Sunday at midnight, they're getting the energy. So these are some of the things that exhaust you and exhaust them, because have you ever had the experience of where you're lying in bed at night and you can't get to sleep because it's like your manager is like right here pounding on you? And it's actually because they are energetically, they may not mean to be. This may not be malicious or intentional, but they may not understanding it. And this is why a part of the Pro Exec program, I teach and train the new leadership how to manage their energy, especially their will and psychic pressure of how, first and foremost, with themselves. And then second, with their other relationships, with senior leadership, with colleagues, and with direct reports. It's really important because, boy, this will burn you out and burn your staff out to crispy critters in a heartbeat if your energy is out of sync like that.
Yeah. And, in the couple of minutes we have left, I think it's really important to say all of us need to take a moment and hold ourselves up in the highest regard and hold each other up in the highest regard.
Yes.
And, you want to talk about the Olympics. I got this yesterday, not from a really popular sport, but I got this from watching the women doing skateboarding. And I watched the United States women's alone. I watched her coming forth. And I watched these young skateboarders. Immediate results. You either do the trick or you fail. But I watched their camaraderie after. I watched them talk to each other. Japanese, US, supporting each other in a sport that many didn't feel belonged there. Now that, to me, to watch that in the isolation of this, it was fantastic. And by the way, we're seeing it in all the sports. We're seeing it in gymnastics. We're seeing the Canadian walk over and just congratulate Biles. We're seeing something different now.
New leadership, higher leadership, not just transformational leadership, but transfiguring. We're being transfigured into the Aquarian age way of leading. This is a whole new ballgame. And what the story that you just shared is so refreshing, because that's exactly what we should be doing. First and foremost, treat ourselves with divine love, dignity, and respect. Give that to ourselves, and then give that to every single person you interact with. And it's transfiguring what can happen. Transfiguring.
Wow. Jennifer, thank you for today. Please give out your website. How do people find out more about you?
So burnbrighttoday.com, all the contact information, including the 1-800-357-9075. Reach out and leave me a comment, what you think about the new digs. And if you'd like a consultation, get that on the books and get that scheduled as well. Schedule's really tight right now. So with the new changes and all the new upgrades going on in my professional life and my career. So
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Jennifer J. Marcinelli, I'm Dr. Pat. This is Burn Bright Today and Burn Brighter Tomorrow. We'll see y'all next time.
Thank you for listening to Burn Bright Today with Jennifer Marcinelli on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Be sure to tune in each month for your monthly dose of inspiration and illumination. As a board-certified holistic nurse and energy medicine practitioner with years of wisdom and experience, Jennifer has dedicated her life to solving the problem of burnout and helping others to take a stand for their health. Your first step to taking your life back is Burn Bright Today with Jennifer Marcinelli. For more information about Jennifer Marcinelli and her work, including her new upcoming book, visit her website at burnbrighttoday.com.